Hi, Michelle. How are you? Thank you very much for taking time out to have a chat with me today. I think I was just saying to you, I've got a long list of questions that I want to ask you. So eventually got hold of you and I can ask all my questions. But how's things been?
Really, really well. I mean, obviously, God, we're almost the end of January now, aren't we? So it's certainly been a very good first month back. Picked up a lot quicker than expected, which is good. Normally I moan that the first week of January is quiet and I'm twiddling my thumbs. But no, it's been pretty much go from day one.
Brilliant. And one of the things I must say, because I don't think I've had a chance to actually speak to you face to face since, but congratulations on your award, which I can see shining behind you. So for anyone who's watching who didn't know, Michelle won obviously Best Agents in the UK at the A Masters end of last year, wasn't it? Was it December? Was it November? And am I right saying that perhaps you were 100% expecting it? Is that right to say that?
Yeah, when we went to London, we already knew we were classed as double gold, so top 1%.
Yeah.
And we were hoping for, and it was only a hope, because our aim was to get both teams to gold. We've always been gold, silver, gold, and we thought it'd be nice if they're both the same level. So Josh and I went to London, knowing that we were going on stage to get a certificate and have a day out in London, of course. But our secret hope was that maybe we'd won best single branch.
Right.
And then when we got there, we discovered there wasn't a best single branch. There was best single lettings or best single sales. So we had a pact that if we were to get one of those, we were still a team.
Yeah.
So if lettings won, which Josh heads up, me and sales really pleased for them because we're a team, and vice versa. And then when both those awards went, I was actually texting John from under the table going, boo-hoo, it's not us. He was texting back saying to me, don't worry, sweetheart, you're always a winner in my eyes. And then when it actually happened, it was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
and all I can remember is Josh saying, Mish, you've got to get up. It's us.
I saw you talking about the messages going back and forth with your partner. That I thought it was funny with what you're saying there. So congratulations on that. For anyone who perhaps doesn't know much about yourself, I think one of the things that you said to me before you're an estate agent, you're actually in marketing a bit. Is that correct as well? And do you think that really helped with what you've done so far in the industry?
Certainly. I mean, the first obviously few years when I joined, it was newspaper advert days. I mean, Rightmove was very much in its infancy.
Yeah.
And doing the newspaper adverts for a while bored me, because bearing in mind that's what I did in the previous job. Then we changed our advertising to be more content driven. So yes, we'd have properties, but we'd have the content down the side, and basically a market update and something which we call fluffy, i.e. 10 tips for gardening or how to stage your house. And that was even pre-blog days. Yeah. So of course, then when things like Facebook came out, all of a sudden that excited me, because it was a different world of marketing that you could then explore in different ways rather than just writing 4 bullet points for a newspaper advert. No,
and I think when we first started talking, a good few years ago now, I think one of the things I said to you was that you've got the content, the content there's covered. The bit that you needed was the next step, which was exposure and distribution to the right people. Yes. And I can clearly see that you're doing that now, and you're doing it very well. How much do you think? It's a hard question, but how much do you think social media is now playing a part in you being the best agent in the country? Do you think that's a big part, or is it just a little part of it?
I think everything is a marketing mix, but it's certainly a huge part, because people say to us they've seen us on Facebook.
Right.
I mean, I've done 3 valuations this morning via video call. And 2 of them have mentioned Facebook in those conversations.
Okay.
One being asking, how are we going to do hers on Facebook that way? And the other one talking about some properties she's seen on Facebook as a company, still wanted more information.
Yeah.
So it's certainly a big part. It's also, in many ways, a differentiator, because when Rightmove came out, that, from my perspective, put us all a level playing field.
Yeah, very true.
You know, every listing looked pretty much identical. It came down to just the quality agent's photos and a few words. Facebook has given us back a personality.
Yeah.
And we can get that across to people. So when people are thinking about things, you're always in the background.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. So what's for the agents that are watching, what's your normal, what does a normal week look like with regards to social media for you now? How much time are you putting into social media? Do you have any sort of schedules that you follow? What's the sort of normal week look like?
Yes, so I always have a 10 o'clock in the morning post, which is normally something Canva created on a blog. I have a 12 o'clock post. So 12 o'clock might be something like the data loft. Tends to be more data driven.
Yeah.
And then my 2 o'clock post is a new property.
Okay.
So we've got stock levels to most days have a new property to share. 6 o'clock in the evening, we give over to generally the lettings department. Okay. So that's not always used because obviously we're still bigger on sales than we are rentals. And then 8 o'clock in the evening depends really as to what goes. So that could be coming soons. Yep. It might be left, okay, but it's just to try and space it throughout the day. Okay.
And how much time do you feel that you put aside for this? Is it a big part of your week now? You know, do you have to put certain days and hours aside, or how much do you think you put aside now?
Ooh, on content creation, probably 5-6 hours a week.
Yeah.
I do a lot sat on the sofa watching TV in an evening. I call it playing because I still, you know, that's creating things on Canva and stuff. Blog writing days is normally maybe a Monday morning. So like, for instance, next Monday is the 31st, end of the month. So that's always a market update report day. Yeah. That takes considerably longer, but only because it's so factual and research and getting everything. But ultimately, the reward it gives back, and then the different channels you can use it all through. Because it feeds into email marketing campaigns, it feeds into Insta and LinkedIn. Yeah. I think that's a big one. You're repurposing content, and that's something you do extremely well. And I think that's something which a lot of agents don't do. You know, repurposing that bit of content into different platforms. Do you, you know, does the team get involved, or is it just you? Because one of the biggest problems that agents often have is getting their team involved. Is that something which everyone is involved with now? Josh is certainly heavily involved. The rest of the team do little bits. If I'm honest, I'd like them to do more, but the volume of workload that we're coming through at the moment. Yeah. But Josh and I are signed now. We've just started one day a month to have a marketing day where we'll go out and create video content and various things that we can then share throughout that month. Yeah, that makes total sense. And what platforms are you now marketing on? I think one of the questions that I often get asked is what platforms should agents be on, but what platforms are you now marketing on social media? Where are you seeing the best returns, do you think? Certainly Facebook is my number one, but I like Facebook, I like the interaction, I like how relaxed it is. Yeah. I'm trying to focus more on LinkedIn, but it's just finding the right tone of voice then. I've decided just be me because I can't be, otherwise LinkedIn just bores me. Sorry, LinkedIn. Instagram, I've started doing a bit more, but I'm really more just still at one post a day. I need to up my game there, but I do use Google quite a lot. Okay. Yeah, you did say that a couple of years ago you were using it a lot as well, weren't you? Yeah. The first to do so. And do you find that for your ideal client, they are on those platforms? Facebook is the main platform you find that they're probably on? Yeah, Facebook and Google. I mean, Google is more really, so when somebody searches Estate Agents Lancaster or JDG Lancaster, that when that thing on the right comes up, how professional is that thing on the right? But we've got things there and we've got activity there. And again, it's just repurposed a lot of my Facebook stuff across there. Yeah. But I just want it so if they do a search on Facebook and the images come up or whatever, we're there a lot. Yeah, that makes total sense. Not Facebook, say Google. So
Okay. And what sort of adverts do you run on Facebook? Are there adverts that you're running constantly, or types of adverts you're sort of using more?
Yes, so my weekly carousel of new properties, that is a constant going out to a warm audience, a cold audience, and an imported audience, so from my database.
Okay. Yeah.
And basically I just update that every weekend and then share it on the Facebook page as well. My market update report, so that just runs throughout the month and just gets updated when the new one comes out. Just go to Facebook, switch it for the new one.
Yeah.
On an average month, that gets between 5,000 and 7,000 views.
Wow. So good return on distribution.
Yep. Obviously, I'm running the Best Estate Agency Award advert on a split campaign.
Yep.
So I've got two adverts, and at the moment they haven't decided. They're running equally the results, so I've just left them. One being the winner's advert created by the A-Masters, the other one being the actual snippet from the trip to the stage of it being presented to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought they'd perform very, very differently, but they haven't, which was a surprise, and still is, to be honest. So I've got that going, and I've also got a hello again. So anybody who's been on the website, it just hello again, and encourages them to go and like the page for the type, and it lets them know the type of content we post.
Brilliant. So it sounds like obviously you're getting in front of lots of people using Facebook, so using Facebook ads, and then staying in front of anyone who's showing interest in you from your website. And I suppose a lot of this is replaced perhaps a lot of the sort of the print options maybe that you might have used or maybe still use, but do you find that that's probably right? Most of your exposure now is from social media?
Yeah, we dropped ours. It's very strange because we were one of the last agents to actually drop newspaper adverts. Right. And basically at the beginning of lockdown, everybody was working out what to do or not do. My newspaper rep, who I'd had for a lot of years, was furloughed.
Right.
The replacement, without being rude to her, didn't really seem that interested or capable. Yeah. So it was let's just stop doing this until things pick back up. And we never missed it. Yeah. And then newspaper sales, I mean, now when I ran the newspaper property guide, we had 32,000 copies going out. It's less than 4,000 copies now.
Right, big difference. And you're getting a lot of exposure on your social media, aren't you, though, to replace that? You know what you said there, that you're getting sort of tens of thousands nearly of people to see your properties. So that's probably covered that quite a bit, hasn't it, if not more?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured let's just use the budget more toward that direction.
One of the things that would be really interested to know is how are you converting your leads? Because one of the things that I know from talking to you, and we looked at it together, was that yes, you were getting exposure, yes, you were getting leads, but it was understanding that a lot of these leads need looking after differently, and also they need nurturing longer than perhaps we're all used to. Now you're doing quite a few things, aren't you? One thing you were doing, I think it's still is, you're using sort of video emails and emails to try and engage with those leads. Is it still something you do?
Yes. So basically, if we pick on the typical ValPal, which lots of agents have, obviously working with you, we set that up to zap across to my email marketing campaign. And then we have a series of adverts, emails that goes out to them. So the first one is a simple thank you for trying it. Yeah. And it lets them know that we'll be in touch in the next sort of 24 hours. I think it might be 12 hours actually, to discuss it with them. As we all know, that everybody answers the telephone call when you call. It's how far do you pester them, but then we have it going out over a period of time where we have a chain of emails that's just explains the market, talks about home staging, different e-guide options, and then eventually, once that comes to an end, it just drops into the monthly market update.
Brilliant.
And that just sits in the background.
So what's the what you see in regards to the conversion rate? Are some of those doing it straight away, or a majority doing things later on, or maybe maybe most of them aren't doing anything? But how do you see that sort of taking shape?
Well, it's an interesting one because we're getting quite a few people hitting to book a valuation straight away at the moment. And I don't know if that's the time of year or not, because I haven't got an obvious ValPal advert going out, but I've got it at the end of my carousel for properties for sale. So, but you do find that more than you think actually do eventually come back around to you. And I think that's because people think very early on about moving and something might pique their interest, and then 6 months, 9 months down the line, they reappear. The key is to keep in touch with them, because obviously prices have changed since we tried the ValPal, and we all know the ValPal really is, it's a lead generator. So the phone call from the office is normally apologising for the valuation and explaining that the housing market has gone up, how it works in averages, and I'd love to tell you what your house is really worth.
And I love you know, the video going out straight away is a great idea, because it just covers that angle of if the price is way out, or they haven't put the right details on the phone. You're covering that angle, you know, and they're seeing an actual person as well, which is always important. But yeah, and I think a lot of agents, they don't understand that the online valuation lead is to start a conversation, but also it's to try and, it's an opportunity to start a relationship. It's not actually to get an instruction or evaluation. It's to start that conversation, start a relationship, and then try and move it on to a valuation at some point.
Exactly. It's basically a foot in the door.
Yeah, no, that's great. Quick question, before you started doing actual Facebook ads, because I know you did a lot of social media, what was your view on social media there? Were you getting results, or did you find until you started actually putting money behind adverts, that's when you started seeing probably the results you were looking for?
I mean, I joined Facebook advertising with you for a reason, and that was to obviously get our message out there. I was getting some results. Don't think bad of me. I was the booster.
Well, you still were putting money behind it, so you're doing something.
So I was the booster, but also we were inviting anybody we could do to like our page.
Okay.
So I think when I met you, I'd managed to get above, I think it was about 2,000 when I joined with yourself. So, and now we're over 4,000 now.
Yeah.
Actually follows to the page, and I know there's bigger numbers out there, but my patch isn't that big anyway.
Yeah.
But certainly the adverts made a big difference.
Yeah, it's getting the going back to what we said before. You had the content. You know, the content was there. There's no doubt about that. It was just getting it seen by more people.
Yes.
And Facebook over the years slowly turned down, you know, the free exposure for content for businesses. You know, now it's personal content gets seen, and businesses are sort of at the bottom. So you're forcing that exposure. Now you're getting people seeing your great content and then engaging, and then you're staying in front of them, which is brilliant. What about, last couple of questions, what about social media in the industry? Do you think social media and video is now a must for agents? Something we're really at that stage now where it just can't be ignored? I know before it was, you know, it's something you should be doing, but is it now you must be doing, do you think?
Definitely a must be doing. It's getting the balance right as to how much you put out. And I think that's a big thing because of people's attention spans.
Yeah.
So we were doing the video tour properties, but I've now swapped to a giraffe tour because ultimately I found people more interested in the house, and I wanted them to actually see the house rather than the different points they switch off. It's trying to keep things as short as you can do to that attention span.
Yeah.
And no longer content. If they make it through to the end, well, they're definitely interested. So I say my market reports, they're the most boring thing ever. You will only listen that to the end if you've got a house in Lancaster.
That's very true. Very, very true.
Yes.
That is very true.
And I can see obviously how many people make it through to the end on Facebook. And I think, wow, you know. But I also do it in a written format because when I do send out my bonbons, I can see who's actually watched the video and I can see who actually ignores the video but actually clicks in either Lancaster or Morecambe.
Brilliant.
So that way then you cover both.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about shorter videos. You know, what one thing we've seen over the last 12 months, and I've sort of been the same sometimes, is that we're going through a transform period at the moment where, you know, longer videos were fine on Facebook, but now we're sort of seeing all these platforms where 60 seconds or less is sort of the amount of time people will put up with. And that's why you're seeing, you know, things like TikTok, Reels, and Stories. You know, they're sort of starting to change theirs to, I think, 60 seconds on a few platforms now as well. So that seems to be definitely what's happening, is that people have got a shorter patience, and they want snackable content and fun content. So yeah, those sort of short videos are definitely going to be where things head to on that. So last question, Michelle, what's one tip? I should have pre-warned you about this. But what's one tip that you could, perhaps, with everything you've been doing, and obviously it's been very successful, what's one tip you could give agents with regards to social media or Facebook, you know, that they could perhaps take away, which you found has been useful?
One tip.
Or a few.
Okay. First of all, consistency is key to anything, and that's no matter what you do. Social media, valuation, prep work. You know, if you wanted to call me clockwork, I'm a clockwork toy.
Right.
Yep. And I'm very, very clockwork about everything that I do that way. So consistency is certainly key. In terms of social media adverts, my best producing one probably is my monthly market updates. It's the one I hate doing the most.
Yeah.
But it's the one that produces, hence I stick with it. I've just grown every month, and it's that time. And the other one, the second one, which is very simple, is the property carousel.
Yeah.
Because people are naturally nosy in houses.
I always love property.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, so they are probably, if you could take all my adverts away from me and only leave me with two that I could run, they would be the two.
Brilliant. That's excellent advice, Michelle. Michelle, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today, answer those questions, and I wish you all the success again this year.
Thank you ever so much, and thank you for having me.